Good morning, students. So this is lecture 2 of chapter number 3, Water Resources, class 10, subject Geography. So in the previous lecture, I have given you a quick introduction about this chapter, Water Resources. Then we have talked about water, some facts and figures. So we have discussed the current situation of water, and we have discussed major facts and figures about water, what is the current status of water all around the world. Then we have talked about water scarcity. So we have discussed it that water is a renewable resource. Still, it is all over the world. The water is in a very limited zone left. So why there is a water scarcity, we have discussed that, and why there is a need for water conservation. So we have talked about these things. Now in this particular lecture, we are going to talk about these topics. So the topics that we are going to cover will be multi-purpose river projects. So there were certainly river projects that have been made to conserve these water. So we will talk about that, what were the major historical structures in ancient time that have helped many parts of India to recover some water for themselves and to save them. So we will discuss about that and the integrated water resource management. Then about the hydraulic structures in the ancient India. So there were many dams and rivers that have been built for these river conservation. Then dam, how does dam help in river water conservation? We'll talk about that. And there was one thing that came up by these NGO called Narmada Bachao Andolan. So we'll talk about that, what is it all about. So these will be the topics that we are going to cover, and I will give you the homework for the day. So we are starting now. So first of all, we are going to start with the multi-purpose river projects and integrated water resources management. So here we are going to talk about multi-purpose river projects. They were certainly we have talked about there is water scarcity on earth, and there is very limited water that is left for human being. But if there is a need for water conservation, how you can conserve and manage the water, how you can conserve it, how you can manage it. So from the ancient time and historical record show that there was some construction that have been built previously. Very sophisticated hydraulic structures have been made, like dams built of stone, rubble, reservoirs or lakes have been built as well. Then embankment and canal for irrigation was also there. And surprisingly, we have continued this tradition in the modern India by building dams as well. So from the ancient time, we are taking this system to conserve water. How? We conserve this water by certain dams, and there were certain reservoirs and lakes that have been built for them, so that we can conserve water as soon as possible. So there were dams, there were reservoirs, there were lakes, embankments, canals. These all were there to help out for the irrigation purpose. So they were helping basically in growing of crops, and for better crops they need water. For better crops we need better irrigation system. So for that there were many things that have been built to conserve water around us. So these were the things from the ancient time it has been coming up. Now about the hydraulic structures in the ancient India. So there were certainly major rivers, dams and reservoirs, lakes have been built for these purpose only. So in the 1st century BC, there was Srivanapura near Allahabad has sophisticated water harvesting system that channeling the flood water of the river Ganga. So they, in the 1st century of BC, there was one water harvesting system was built near the river Ganga, which has helped to conserve water for the farmers out there. And this actually was the first attempt to build such a thing, so that we can conserve water, and it could help the agriculture, and it can help the other parts of the world as well. So during this time, they have invested in many other projects as well, like in Chandragupta Maurya. He have invested his time in dams, building dams, lakes, and irrigation system were extensively built. So I will show you the pictures how they were till now. So about these different dams and the harvesting system which has been built there. So Chandragupta Maurya also, at his time, they have built many dams, lakes, and irrigation to protect water, to conserve water in their places, and it was extensively built in many other places as well. And there were evidence of sophisticated irrigation works have also been found in the Kalinga. So there were many irrigation works that have been found in Kalinga, where Nagarjunga Konda in Andhra Pradesh, so there is a very different names. Then Bennur in Karnataka and Kolhapur in Maharashtra, they all have certain good and better working irrigation works out there. So basically about irrigation, you know that they supply water to land or crops to help their growth, and typically by means of channels. So they are giving them a flow of channels. They have building from these lakes and dams, so that these channels can provide directly water to these land areas and to build crops in that particular area. So they have built certain channels in these particular areas, so that the cropping session and the growth of this cropping session and land area should be in a better form. So all these irrigation works have been found in this Kalinga in Odisha, Nagarkunda in Andhra Pradesh, Bennur in Karnataka, and Kolhapur in Maharashtra. So in the 11th century, Bhopal Lake was one of the largest artificial lake of its time which was built. So after all these things came up in the 11th century, Bhopal Lake was also been built, and it is one of the largest artificial lake of its time that was built at that time in the 11th century. And in the 14th century, the tank in Hoskar Delhi was constructed by Alauddin Khilji for supplying water to Siri Fort area. So it was built by Alauddin Khilji. I will let you know and I will show you about these particular ancient structures now. Firstly, I want to tell you about the Grand Anticut of Kalenia. So here it was built in the Kaveri river in Tamil Nadu. That was the first attempt, and it was built by the Chola kings and the Karikala around the 2nd century AD. And it is one of the oldest water regulator structure in the world which is still in use. So it was built in the 2nd century AD. So we are living 21st century. You can imagine when it was built. So 2nd century is a way long time, and it was built on the Kaveri river in Tamil Nadu. If you travel there, it is still there, and it was built by Chola king from Karikala, and it is one of the oldest and quite big water regulator structure in the world which is still in use. You can see here it is one of the river that we have talked about. Is one of the water harvesting system that was built in the ancient time in the Srigavarpura water harvesting system. So it was a sophisticated water harvesting system which was built in the 1st century BC at Allahabad, UP. So this was we have talked about the first water harvesting system which was built in the 1st century BC in Sringavapura near Allahabad. They have sophisticated water harvesting system that channeling the flood water from the river Ganga. So this is how it looks. So it's quite ancient. How they have started to reserve this water harvesting system in their wells and in such how they have built it. You can see in the pictures. Now this is Nagarjuna Konda. So we have talked about this also, which is there in Andhra Pradesh. So this is how Apparently, they are working for they have sophisticated irrigation works how it is being built there. So you can see from the rivers they are channelizing it to some of the land area so that they can build crop there. So the river that they have taken certain system from it so that they can take water from it. Now this is the Bhopal lake, that is the most famous lake in the 11th century. This lake was built and it is one of the largest artificial lake of its time was built. So basically Bhopal is known for its rivers only, lakes only. So it is the land of lakes. You can see many lakes there and it is they are quite longest and quite adapt. Like Udaipur is also known as for its rivers only, but still Bhopal is one of the biggest, largest and biggest lakes that cover up the land area. Now about the Bhopal lake in Madhya Pradesh, it is the source of drinking water of the city. So this largest artificial lake in Bhopal, it is basically the source of drinking water of the city. They are taking from this lake only if they are having any shortage of water, so they are basically saving it for their own benefits. And it was built in 105 till 1055 AD by the Malwa king. So it was built by them. Then there is Hoskas Valley. So you must have visited or you haven't visited till then. So in Hoskas Valley there is a water tank, and which was called by Royal Water Tank, which is known as Royal Water Tank, and it's quite famous there. People are still coming here for some tourist visits, or many of the people who are living near this area, and animals also. So there is one big farm state things also where many animals are living. So it supplies water at that in such areas, and people are coming here for such tourist visits now. So about Hoskas Valley, about this. So it was built by Alauddin Khilji in 2096 till 1316 to supply water for the inhabitants of Siri Fort. So there was a fort also that has been made, Hoskas Fort. So many of the ancient workers have been working there, and all his people who used to work for him, they were staying in that particular fort. So they were not a good supply of water in Delhi at that time. So he thought of to supply water in such a way so that his people who is living there, his all the soldiers for him who is working there, they could not he want to supply water to them. Now this is also one of the famous thing there in Delhi, which is Agrasen Ki Boli, which was built by Maharaj Agrasen. It was more than 5,000 years ago, and it was rebuilt in 14th century by the Agarwal community. So it is one of the now we call it as a haunted house or haunted thing, but there in some previous time it was one of the major way to safeguard water and to conserve water, and it was built by this Maharaja Agrasen. So now we are going to talk about, or we have covered the ancient things. Now we are going to talk about these how these dams and other things are helpful. So how you can, what are these dams and how do they help us in conserving and managing water? So dams are very traditionally built to impound rivers and rainwater that could be used later to irrigate agriculture fields. So basically these dams are made on some traditional building ways by to impound rivers and rainwater so that they can save these things and they can use it later for irrigation and agriculture fields. And today dams are built not only just for irrigation but for electricity generation as well. So now currently the situation is that these dams are built not only for irrigation, but they are also helping in generating electricity, water supply for the domestic and industrial uses, flood control, recreation, inland navigation and fish breeding. So now the current situation is dam is not only used for irrigation, but it is using for other purposes also. So it is helping in many ways, and it is helping basically to generate electricity, then for some domestic and industrial purpose, to for the flood control and fish breeding as well. So hence these dams and refer to a multi-purpose project where there are many uses of this impound water and they are integrated with one another. For example, there is one Satluj Beans river that is there in Bhakra Nangal project. Water is being used both for hydel power production and irrigation, and similarly with Hirakud project in the Mahanandi basin integrates conservation of water with flood control. So I will show you the pictures of these particular projects also. So a dam basically is a barrier that crosses following water from obstructions, directs or retards the flow. So basically it is cleaning the flow of water, it is shifting the flow of water so that it is creating a reservoir, lake or impoundment, and dam is refers to the reservoir rather than the structure. So it is referred more of a reservoir where you can reserve certain water than just a structure, and most dams have a section called a spillway. So from where this you must have seen a dam from where it is the water is coming, the flow is quite restricted on some way or the other, and there is a spillway from where the water comes out. So over the time this water that is flowing continuously, it is controlling and reserving certain water so that it could be help for the future things as well. So, and these dams are classified according to certain structures and which is intended for major purposes for their structure and their height, and they are based on structure and the material used. Dams are classified as timber dams, embankment dams or monastery dams with several types, and according to the height, dam can be categorized as large dams and major dams, or alternatively as low dams, medium high dams and high dams. So all around us there are different sort of dams which we can see and which is built in their own purposes. So they have classified these dams in different names. They are timber dams, they are embankment dams, monastery dams. So they have given certain different names from which they have built these dams, large ones, smaller ones, alternative ones, medium, high. So they have defined basically dams in different types of forms, and you can classify in different types of water conservation of dams which is found in India. So how do dams help us in conserving and managing water? So they are traditionally built to empower rivers and rainwater that could be used to later for irrigation agriculture purposes. Now this is the biggest dam in India, Tehri on Bhagirathi river. So basically this is the first dam and it is one of the biggest dam in India that is built, and this one is the longest dam in India, which is the Hirakud on Mahanandi river. This one is one of the longest dam and this one is the biggest dam. So there is a difference in biggest and longest. You can see in the pictures. So they after this the classification of dam, there were multi-purpose projects that were launched after independence with their integrated water resources management approach, and there was a thought of as the vehicle that would lead the nation to development and progress and overcoming the handicap of its colonial past. So they were purposes projects that have been made after after the clearance of all these things, and there were certain approaches that have been building up to rectify all the ancient things that have been built. They want to rectify them, and they want to make them new. They want to regulate new things in them. So while these multinational projects and large dams have come under great controversy at that time, they were regulating and damming of river affect their natural flow, causing poor sediment flow and excessive sedimentation at the bottom of the reservoir. So basically, what was the controversy that was being coming up because of these multi-purpose projects in large dam areas was that because of the regulating of these damming, there was certain restrictions that was there. The reservoir was there for the flow of this natural flow of this river, which was causing certain poor sediment flow, and there was excessive sedimentation at the bottom of the reservoir. So it controls the migration of aquatic fauna. So there was no such big control in the migration of aquatic fauna, and it makes submergence of the existing vegetation. So many of the aquatic animals or all the fishery things, they were not majorly migrated from there, and they were coming up in the submergence of the existing vegetation as well. So if you look at your book on page number 26, there was Jawaharlal Nehru proudly proclaimed the dams at the temples of modern India, and these reasons being that it would integrate development of agriculture and villages and with rapid industrialization and growth of the urban economy. One second. So in recent years, these multinational projects and large dams have come under these great controversies, and there was a variety of reasons for that. They were regulating and damming of these rivers affect their natural flow, causing poor sediment flow and excessive sedimentation at the bottom of the reservoir, resulting in rockier stream beds and poorer habitats for the rivers and aquatic life. And dam were also fragment rivers that was making it difficult for the aquatic fauna to migrate, especially for the swamping, and the reservoirs that are created on the floodplains also submerge the existing vegetation and soil, leading for its decomposition over a period of time. So mainly all these things were created because there was a lot of damage that have been occurring to the vegetation itself. So for the crop and the agricultural land, this dam was helping in one way or the other, but it was also damaging the things as well. So it was damaging the crop because the aquatic life fauna was also coming up in the range of these land areas. So that was the life of aquatic fauna life is also spoiling, and the life of the crops were also falling at the same time. Yes, and it had led to large-scale displacement of local communities. It destroyed habitat of millions of flora and fauna, and it leads the degradation of soil due to the continuous irrigation. So these multi-purpose projects and large dams have also been the cause of many large-scale displacement of local communities. So basically, about these dams were built, there were certain levels that have been come up, and it has displaced these local communities that were living near these dam areas. It has destroyed the habitats of millions of flora and fauna there, and it has led to the degradation of soil due to the continuous irrigation. So who were the beneficiary from these multi-purpose projects? So after all these things, all the controversies and all the spoilers they have given to the natural community who were the beneficiaries from these multi-purpose projects were the landowners. Why the landowners? Because they were getting paid for it. They just want to generate money out of it, so they were generating. Large farmers who does have large farms, who doesn't work for a small farm in, and basically all the workers who are working with them, so a little damage could not define any loss to them. Industrialization which was building up, so these multinational projects were helping them in one way or the other, and few urban centers also were in a good profit because of these multi-purpose projects. Now there is one more cause that have been created by these multi-purpose projects, which was Narmada Bachao Andolan and the Tehri Dam Andolan also. So in the resistance of these projects have primarily been due to the large scale displacement of local communities. Local people have often had to give their land to the livelihood and their migrate access and control over resources for the greater good of the nation. So if the local people are not benefiting from such projects, then who is the beneficiary ones? The landowners, the large farmers, industrialization and few urban centers take the cause of the landless in the village, and they have started, the government organization has started to rebuke it with a project which was Narmada Bachao Andolan, or Save Narmada Movement. Is a non-governmental organization that mobilized the tribal people, farmers, environmentalists and human rights activists against the Sardar Sarovar Dam being built across the Narmada River in Gujarat, and it originally focused on the environmental issues which was related to the trees that would be submerged under the dam water. Recently, it has refocused the aim of enable poor citizens, especially the Aussies who were displaced people, to get full rehabilitation facilities from the government. So this movement was started for mobilizing the tribal people who were living around these dam areas, the farmers, the environmentalists and the human rights activists, such like Sardar Sarovar Dam, which was built across this Narmada River in Gujarat, which was originally focused on the environmental issues, which was related to these trees that would be submerged under the dam water. And it was refocused by the aim to enable poor citizens, especially the disabled people. Now people have felt that they were suffering with their suffering would not be in vain, except the trauma of this displacement, believing in the promise of irrigation fields and plentiful harvest. So often the survivors of this Hyan told us that they accept that suffering as sacrifice for the sake of their nation, but now after 30 bitter years of being adrift, their livelihood having ever been more precious, they keep asking, are we the ones who have chosen make sacrifices for the nation? So there were many people who were suffering from these things, but still they were taking this trauma, so because they want to help the nation out. They want to build a better nation for the one, so that the people of the India should not suffer from any water scarcity. But after this bitter 30 years they have spent with this suffering, still they wonder that are we the only ones who have chosen to make sacrifices for the nation, because they are not even thinking a little bit for them. So that is all till we are discussing in this particular lecture. The homework that I want to give you in this particular lecture is read the chapter and write a note on the changes that occur in India that help in conserving water. So what is the current situation? What are the changes that occur currently in India that help in the conserving water? And if you have queries, you can ask me in the student inquiry section or the comment section. And you are doing a really good job. Many of the students are sending me the homework and I am seeing it also very good. I am really proud of you all that you are studying very hard in this time also. and please take care of your health. That is the most important thing. And one more thing, on Friday there is a test. I want to assign you. So there will be a test from the chapter that we have covered last, from the economics chapter, chapter number 2, sectors of the Indian economy. I will let you know what the test is all about. It is about some MCQs and short answer question. It will be from 25 marks, and you have to do that test in front of your parents, and your parents should examine you while you are doing the test, and you have to send that test to me on my email ID. I will check that, and each one of you have to do that. So this is whole as a lecture 2. If you have queries, you can ask me anytime. Thank you.